Okay, guys, so today we got a fun topic for you. We are going to be talking about whether or not the Audi R8 is daily drivable. We'll be diving into a couple of points on why I think it is easily daily drivable, and a couple of other points that you may want to consider if you are planning on driving this car a lot. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Today we are riding in my 2011 Audi R8. It is the first generation of the R8, so it has that Iron Man styling going on for it with all the carbon side blades and carbon interior, etc. But, yeah, so we're going to be talking about exactly why I think this is a very good daily driver, and a couple of points that you may want to consider if you are looking to get into one. Another thing to bear in mind is that this is the R-tronic transmission. It does not have the dual clutch. It is not like the newest generation of R8, so this is getting a little bit older in terms of exotic cars and what they have to offer. So just bear that in mind. Some stuff is from 2011. So we'll start off with the good about the car and why I think it's a great daily driver. And I've been daily driving this for quite some time now. I've had it for 2 years, put about 12,000 miles on it, so I like to think I know a thing or two about the car at this point and what it has to offer. But yes, to be completely upfront, I do have two other cars. One is a 1992 Mazda Miata, and then the other is a 2001 Chevy Silverado. Usually I like to split my time between those three cars pretty equally, but the Silverado, I haven't really needed to use it lately because the weather has been perfect. And then the Miata has actually been in the shop for the past 2 months. Update on that car coming very, very soon. So let's go ahead and jump into why I think this car makes a good daily driver. But yeah, so let's start with the seats. These standard seats that come with the car are really, really comfy, and they have a ton of adjustments on the side of the chair. My favorite of which is the lumbar adjustment, so you can move that up and down however you like, and that made this car like an absolute road trip machine. I usually get an achy back in a car no matter how comfortable it is, or if it's a truck or whatever. I usually start to get an achy back after about 4 hours, but this could drive it pretty much as long as I want to and not have an achy back. Now along those lines, another big benefit of the Audi R8 over, say, a Gallardo of the same era is that the R8s have more of a bubbly roof, and that creates way more of an open space. Like the headroom, I've never had an issue with anybody fitting in here or not fitting in here. It's also just a really pleasant place to be. It's like wide, there's nothing that is cocooning you in any way. Like I think a lot of the C8s suffer from that a little bit when you get in them. Nice interiors, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like it's too cramped. So it's kind of funny because every time that I go from the Miata to this car feels like an absolute SUV because it's so wide. Oh, we got a tunnel coming up. Let's see if my audio can catch this appropriately. The space in here, as far as packing things in, while limited, you're probably going to be surprised by how much you can fit in this car. Like there's a big old bench in the back, like just right behind these seats. And then the frunk actually has a lot of room too. During the camping trip, I was able to put in like tents and a big old water jug in there. So yeah, don't underestimate the amount of stuff that you can put in here. Obviously, it's not going to be like a truck or a four-door car or an SUV of any kind or a hatchback, but you can still get a fair amount of stuff in here. Now, as far as mechanically, reliability is always one of the things at the forefront of my mind when I'm looking at a car. And for an exotic car, this Audi R8 is reliable when you start getting into like this league of cars. It's not going to be like a Honda or a Toyota, but again, I don't think you're really going to have many issues as long as you get a pre-purchase inspection before purchasing the car. Now on to ride quality. Typically, people will assume that these types of cars are like, ooh, race car, very stiff suspension. And while mine is very stiff because it's on the BC Racing coilovers, these cars from the factory were equipped with a mag ride suspension, so you could go between comfort and sport. Those I've heard are very enjoyable to use, but again, expensive to maintain, so that's why I got out of it. But even with the coilovers, if you're buying this car, chances are you are an auto enthusiast, and so you can understand when a car is riding a little bit rougher, but even then, the car is smooth as butter. Another common thing that people always talk about in cars is visibility, and while the blind spots in this car are pretty massive, they are still very manageable, and I would actually say that I feel like I can see around in this car better than my Chevy Silverado, especially when backing up. Backing up the Silverado is just like, I might hit something, I might not. It's probably a sign that I should get a backup camera for that at some point. But with this, the windows are so large on the side, you can usually manage pretty well. It feels pretty good. I would compare it to, I used to have a 370Z. It's comparable to that in terms of visibility. And of course, if you are worried about exhaust, and if you enjoy loud exhausts, I would say the 10-cylinder R8 first generations are probably the lowest cost high revving 10-cylinder that you can buy, so that's definitely a plus. Not necessarily a thing that people evaluate when they have daily drivers, but it's something I enjoy, and as a car enthusiast, again, if you're looking at one, the exhaust note is a huge benefit. But let's get back into some more common sense things here. Audio. The radio and speakers are really good. They are Bang & Olufsen, and even from 2011, they sound incredible. I've never really had an urge to upgrade them in any way. I rarely have the radio on in the first place. Usually the exhaust note does all the talking, but on longer trips, it is nice to be able to plug in your phone and throw on some tunes and just listen to a nice sound system. Now, if you live in a snowy or, unpredictable weather environment, such as Colorado, this does have all-wheel drive, which gives a little bit more confidence when you're driving in, say, some snow. It can handle it, which is awesome. Right now, I have all-weather tires on the car. They're from Nitto. They're the Nitto Neogens. They're not great in a lot of aspects. They are very much jack of all trades, master of none, as they say. So it'll manage in the snow with these types of tires, but getting some winter tires on it, man, I bet you that would be perfect. And Now, we are on to the bad. First, the car is extremely low. Your clearance is basically non-existent, even if it's a stock R8. So, things to keep in mind when driving it: watch out for potholes, take every curb at an angle, otherwise you're gonna scrape it a lot. I scrape this thing quite often. I don't know an exact number, at least once a week. It's just how it goes. As you just saw, the turning radius is pretty rough. 2 years into owning this car, and I will still attempt a parallel parking job, like let's say downtown, and there's times where I just have to give up. As sad as it is to say, the turning radius is absolutely atrocious. Now, I have heard of people converting it from all-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive, and that apparently helps in some way, but I just don't see that being a big selling point there. For like parallel parking or whatever, I don't want to just get rid of the all-wheel drive system for that. I'd rather have it for bad weather and for better performance at the track. But yeah, anytime you have to do a U-turn, you're pretty much guaranteed to do a 3-point turn, unless the road is like 3 lanes wide. Then you can clear that pretty easily. But yeah, just something to keep in mind is the turning radius for sure. Not super daily drivable in that respect. Another thing to be aware of with the first generation Audi R8s is that this thing hates lower gears. Like first and second are very, very funky and very difficult to get used to. First especially, first gear is the funkiest of them all, so it makes traffic a little weird. You just have to pace yourself appropriately, keep the car moving, and give plenty of space between you and the car in front of you. Typically that makes it a much smoother driving experience. The car also hates reverse, especially if you're going up any kind of small hill. You can just tell the car hates it. I don't know exactly why it does that, but it really does not enjoy it, and backing up, just depending on the day, can be a massive pain. Like even just going out of my driveway. As far as the tech and the center column, it's from 2011. It's really, I'm sure at the time it was cool, but it does not integrate with really any modern day phone. You have to get adapters and stuff in order to be able to hook your phone up to it. Again, that's expected, so if you're very much into the tech of cars, just be aware it's gonna let you down from that perspective. And then of course, the king of all daily driving elements is miles per gallon. This is the 10-cylinder R-tronic R8. The gas mileage is ridiculously low. So if you're looking for something efficient, I would not suggest this. I also don't know if they hit you with a gas guzzler tax or not when you register this car. I'll have to go back and check. But yeah, if you have a family, if you have kids, if you tend to haul a ton of stuff around in your car, I would not suggest this as a daily driver. But overall, I think the good definitely outweighs the bad, at least for my scenario and how I currently am living my life. If you're in a similar position where you're single and you just have like work, maybe you go on some trips here and there, if you enjoy road tripping, if you enjoy camping, I think it's a really fun one. It's especially fun when you go camping with it, because it is way out of place. Like if you're in a campground, you'll go down like the sites and you'll see like Toyota 4Runner, you'll see SUVs, you'll see Toyota Tacomas, Land Rovers, whatever. And then you'll just have the R8 sitting, which is hilarious, but that's beside the point. in terms of expenses, when it comes to repair bills, parts, etc., the parts are pretty available because they made so many of these types of cars. And this 5.2 10-cylinder has been around since, what, 2010? Maybe 2009? Pretty sure 2010 was the first year that they made these. So, and they've continued to use them with minor changes in the modern day R8s as well as the Lamborghini Huracans. So parts are pretty available. They made a lot of them, so again, it's easy to get your hands on that. But the repair bills can still be very expensive. It's really like any other Audi or any other BMW. Basically every repair, even if it's small, it's probably going to be $1,000. Anytime I get below $1,000 on a repair bill, I'm like, yeah, I am getting a good deal here. But that's pretty rare. And it's rare because, well, one, I don't really have to bring it in that often. And two, if I do have to bring it in, pretty much everything's over $1,000. So that's the part that kind of sucks. If you want a flashy car, you gotta pay flashy prices. But yeah, can you daily drive an Audi R8? I think so.